All right, so Coach just wants to talk to you for a minute. He hasn't done a true ramble in about 300 videos, I believe. I always have some sort of slides prepared or something of that nature, but Coach feels like we're in a pretty damn good place right now. Like, yeah, there's a few more things we want to figure out for right now, and even if you get it all figured out right now, you can't just like rest till the off season, right? We've got a whole next season prepare for season after that. Like, we're always going to need to be getting a step ahead, in every single sport. And Coach doesn't want to just rest on this. He wants to expand. He doesn't think we're done for this year. So we got college football pick, we got Super Bowl pick, we got March Madness, we got NBA Finals, we got Stanley Cup, we got World Series, right? And we'll even throw, you know, Lions into there. Obviously for next year, we got Lakers next year, Kansas, possibly Ohio State in football, right? That's a shitload of picks. Coach wants more right now. He wants the other leagues now. I want Major League Soccer. I want Premier League. I don't even know what's going on like around, but we need to start looking at some other sports, right? I want maybe WNBA. We already called a Detroit Shock expansion after next year, right? Like you can bet on all these things. Not everything, like WNBA expansion, right? But I'm pretty sure you can bet WNBA, Major League Soccer, all that sort of stuff. Like if you can bet on it, Coach wants it. Golf, Coach is hungry for golf now. He wants it all. Coach ain't playing. All right. Well, with that being said, you know it's great to have faith, all that sort of stuff. But from y'all's perspective, apart from the Chiefs saying where he got them knocked off when they're undefeated. We had the TKO exact result for Jones. We had the decision win for Paul. Like little things here and there, right? In moments where it was like, you definitely think I might have just been a year early on some of those other ones, right? Like it's definitely easy to have faith and believe we're on the right track. But Coach has seen it in real life a lot, right? We've talked about the sports stuff. You know about my Eagles. You know about my Red Sox. I was hot on the Cubs until they finally did it. My Maryland Terrapins. My UVA Cavaliers, right? But this, my coach strongly just trusts his intuition in general, not just in relation to some fakery. He trusts his intuition in real life, and a lot of other people trust coach's intuition too. And the reason, not so much anymore. Coach is kind of a loner at this point. He really doesn't have like hardly any friends. No BS, but he was always a pretty popular guy, and a lot of people wanted to be his friend. He just feels uncomfortable around a lot of people. If he even like mildly doesn't like somebody, he can't fake it at all. He doesn't want to be anywhere near them. Like sincerely, like he's liable to say something. Sometimes I judge people wrong, and I end up liking them a little bit later. And then usually after that, I realize I was right the whole time, and I should never fucked with them to begin with, right? So, Coach strongly trusts his intuition, and he believes that he is able to make reads in ways that other YouTubers, etc., cannot for several reasons. About the poker experience. I have actual boots on the ground sports experience, right? And by boots, I'm making a joke with the soccer cleats. We call them boots, right? So, and obviously, I play football. I play basketball. I like boxing. It was my first one. So, definitely got some experience. But where Coach really put a lot of his energy, he never understood religion a whole lot. He definitely wanted to see through the bullshit. He was big into politics. You wouldn't even believe, right? He hates it now. He doesn't want anything to do with it, right? Apart from like our boy Trump making sports great again for us, right? He doesn't believe in any of that stuff, right? He hates politicians. He thinks they're all criminals. Literally every single one. He thinks the nature of a politician is a scumbag, right? The lobbyist, the whole game's rigged, right? And they're all pieces of shit. But where Coach really felt like he actually started to get smarter was when he got his heart broken like a billion times by women, right? So he wanted to figure out what the hell was up with these bitches. So Coach basically just went ham and tried to learn everything he possibly could about women. And you would be amazed at how many people have come to me for relationship advice. I tell them some shit that they think sounds crazy, and they would never even have the balls to think to do whatever I'm telling them to do, and it works like a charm. Coach takes like the Patrice O'Neal approach, right? Like he's not MG Tower or anything like that. He just thinks you should understand the nature of what you're dealing with, respect your opponent, because they seem to always be treating it like a competition in a fight, right? Keep your guard up, and always be a step ahead, right? So, um, Coach has a really good one now, and he doesn't really worry about too much of that stuff. She puts up with way too much shit from Coach, and yeah, she's genuinely amazing, right? For the longest time, I was having like your run of the mill like hood rat types, right, or whatever you want to say, where they're just like always causing drama, whatever, right? And I've had a handful of good ones in there too. But it's like I tried to learn the nature of the game, figure out how I was being manipulated, figure out like what their angles are, try to put myself in their shoes and all that sort of stuff. And of course, you always hear about women's intuition, and that's what Coach caught on to really early with like how we always talk about like communication breakdowns between men and women. Coach realized that a lot of things they say that don't make sense to us, they could be overblowing it. It is something you can't easily explain a lot of times when they're complaining about it. But a lot of times, like when a woman just gets like the creeps or something from a dude or something like that, you know what I mean? Just like a little bit of body language or whatever, like they're way more in tune, right? To like energy. So Coach trusts that big time. Same way you would trust like his dog, right? If his dog like started growling at a random time of the night and it saved his life possibly one time when there was 2 intruders at his home, right? So basically, that's why Coach trusts intuition, and it's what's kept me alive so far, and I don't have any good reason why I should be here. I've seen some shit, so that's why I feel like like I said, I didn't have anything to plan for this one. I never do a script or anything like that, but I just wanted to say Coach is extremely proud of what we've done here. He can't imagine any of these aren't hitting. If they hit, holy hell, it ain't even about the money at this point. We'd be beyond stupid fucking paid. And Coach is really going to lay out the blueprint for like the betting, all that sort of stuff. Going to try to get that in like before the weekend and stuff. So like don't rush or anything. Nothing needs to get in before the football game, and they're going to keep that live even until the game starts. So even if you wanted to wait and see a little bit of how Notre Dame, Ohio State's going before you put your money, no need to rush, right? Coach will have you on the bets, and all you need to know, no more than 50 cents. Parlay the picks we got. Try, start. This is what Coach says. 50 cents on each winner. Just take them straight up, right? 50 cents on Stanford. 50 cents on, I guess, even Notre Dame. Why not? 50, because nothing's your thing, right? 50 cents on the Bucks. And you can do one 50 cents Bucks over Clippers. 50 cents Guardians, 50 cents Guardians over Brewers. It's gonna rack up. Coach isn't bullshitting you, but this is for like the whole year. We got it all set in stone, right? This is, and obviously, we'll probably pony back up once the lines go live. But there's a long like window there between March Madness and like the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup where you could easily wait. And like you should be big paid by if Stanford hits, we should already be paid. So you won't even have to worry about it. Just fucking let it rain quarters, right? 50 cents, just throw it everywhere, right? But Coach thinks that's the real optimal strategy is smart low, and then when you can afford to put in bigger you know what I mean? Like you should only be putting in like 4 leg parlays once you have everything else covered in every single possible combination, right? And straight up, all that sort of stuff. And you're probably looking at like $100 when it's all said and done, but I just think the odds are so insane, and it's like these are our favorite teams. Like whether they hit or not, you gotta think the value's unreal. Like you're really giving us that kind of odds for these teams that just seem to be glowing off the page to us. So I just don't want to talk too much about the betting, but here I got one for you. I'll rope you back in. You want to hear a fucking story about some women? I'll have to think about this one. My cousin Derek. Oh, I always call him my Kid Rock loving cousin. I name dropped him again. But yeah, my Kid Rock loving cousin. I know you like hearing that better anyway. He, oh my God, this kid. Holy shit. So basically, he had so many different kids from like different baby mamas, like you wouldn't even believe. He was literally planning on getting to 10 children so he wouldn't have to legally pay child support in the state of West Virginia. So, this dude was crazy, right? Obviously, he always wanted to die in a car accident, so he always said, right? He even broke his sternum in a car accident. He's crashed more cars you could possibly believe, every type of vehicle you can imagine, right? Like this dude's a maniac, and basically, I can't remember the exact situation, but it was right after like this horrible, like once in a 1,000 year flood. No joke. Like a bunch of people died, everything in this tiny town. I survived, but um, basically, I didn't really have anywhere to go, and I was just kind of crashing with him for like, I don't know, a few weeks. Time's not great with Coach. Maybe it was a few weeks, maybe it was a couple months. I can't really remember, but it wasn't too long because like, I moved on, right? I went back to Pennsylvania, etc. And as far as he was in a jam because for some reason he really needed to serve the baby mama that he like truly loves papers, right? Court papers. So like they were trying to he was trying to get custody of like all the kids. You know what I mean? And I think he ended up getting them. And it was like guardianship for like his parents or something. It was convoluted. But anyways, they ended up working out. But they needed to serve the papers, right? And I never thought of my cousin as dumb, but everybody always told me he was like the dumbest person ever, right? And little things like he didn't learn to read until like a good bit older. Like my dad taught him how to read. He wasn't nurtured like Coach was. Coach was Coach was like raised to be an intellectual. That's what his mom wanted from him. His Coach's mom wanted him to be a stand-up comedian, right? So, uh, Kid Rock cousin, loving cousin, his mom not so much. I remember asking, I was in like third grade or something like that, and I asked his mom what Derek's birthday was, or Kid Rock loving cousin's birthday was, and she did not know, and that broke Coach's heart, right? And he knew that like we had different lives, and I always gave him like a different set of rules, all that sort of stuff, and like he from what I understand, he did all sorts of people like really really dirty because he had like some substance problems. He never did anything wrong to Coach, never ever ever. I mean, apart from like some violent outbursts, we get into it, all that sort of stuff, right? But nothing as far as like stealing anything like that, except like some toys to get. But anyways, I know I'm making this super long story. He needed to serve the papers, right? So he comes to me because I'm supposed to be like the brains, right? And he's like basically crying. He's really emotional, and he's like, I have to find her, right? Like, and she doesn't even like live in the same county, so like going out and searching all sorts of stuff. Like, you better, this is West Virginia, so the next county over, that's a long ways, like at least like an hour, right? So he yeah, God, okay. So he tells me like everything he knows about this girl, which wasn't like, a whole lot, right? It was like, just like give me like the basics, right? And he's like, she used to be a stripper, right? And immediately I'm like, okay, this girl's a liar, right? Like, so I'm not gonna trust pretty much anything he says to me about her that came from her after this point, right? And he's telling me she quit the strip club a while ago, and she's doing this and that. She's working at a restaurant, all this sort of stuff. And like he just like could not possibly figure out where she'd be. And I was like, bro, have you ever seen her work at that restaurant? And he said no. And I was like, she's at the strip club. And he's like, no, bro, she quit the strip club. I'm like, she told you she quit the strip club. And like literally the light went off in his head, and I'm not even joking you. He jumped up and sprinted to the car, like honking from like obviously I was a little behind him, like he's still like honking, like peels out of there, goes straight over. We break down on the way, have to get a jump, break down again, have to get another. I mean, it was a huge mess. Ended up picking up some hitchhiker, and they needed a ride or whatever. And after they get out, he's like, I would have never gave him a ride if I knew it was them. This person did this, that, this, and that. It's a big drama fuel thing or whatever. But we finally get there, and sure enough, she's right there outside of the strip club, and he serves her the papers. But basically, coach was just saying like the professional sports leagues, like most of the people watching them are guys. They're at least the ones that actually want to like figure stuff out. Like most girls aren't like playing fantasy or betting on it. There's definitely the rare exception, right? But for the most part, the people who would actually be thinking they're smart and wanting to make money and putting their dollars on the line, they think the way that's the most easily manipulated by the professional sports leagues, or literally the dumbest consumer. Because when they have the false confidence, they think they're smart because they understand football, when this is football entertainment or basketball entertainment or baseball entertainment, right? Like it has nothing to do with the sport in a way, right? You need to think like a reality show or a bad soap opera or something. Like, if you you got to think like a woman if you want to figure out if the dirty bitch is cheating on you or shaking her ass down at the sweet shop next to the Possum Hall. So coach is like mildly embarrassed because that last ramble that got uploaded was supposed to be this ramble. Everything that was cut into to the one you listened to was supposed to be on the cutting room floor, basically. But after listening back to it, I was like, "Oh, it wasn't really that bad, and I can see why they related to it. Like, I definitely didn't want to have a video where I was just bitching about work, and that's basically all I did. But that being said, coach still thinks it was handled pretty well, so he's not regretting it. He'll leave it up there, and he's glad you enjoyed it. So our buddy Trevor, talking about how Zach doesn't even hide his picks behind a paywall. He doesn't even give you picks. He just gives you narratives, right? So he says, "Yeah, Zach." He means, I think he misspoke. He means L. Ron Hubbard. Yeah, L. Ron Hubbard started doing that a couple years ago. He was getting called out, and his fails were slash are documented. That's why he always does that. I hate this. Congratulations to the winners. It cuts right through me. Or I said they had the better narrative. There's a channel called Sports Gematria. It documents his picks. I've seen that channel, but I don't think I've seen that channel. Right? Like I've scrolled past it. I don't think I've ever actually watched it, but like yeah, that's why I knew like really even before I started like dealing with Zach, I was like, isn't there like a whole channel dedicated to what a piece of shit this guy is, right? So hopefully Coach will have one of those one day. Trying to bring him down. That'll actually be a shill channel. And let's see, the entire Gematria community has AIDS, but his videos are funny. So let's see. Oh, he must have left a separate comment. Hold up. There we go. He said, "Thanks for the kind words. You put a lot of work finding these patterns and numbers. It's nice being able to talk about this without someone pushing gematria. We stopped by friends and it was on. I knew it was a horrible idea. MC Chris was some spider monster and cut off Carl's arms with clippers. Not a good feeling. So that is like the worst imagery ever. But it did make me think of a story of mine. So we were just going to get some smoke." But we had to go way out of the fucking way. It wasn't even in the same city. We were over in Jeanette, which is like rival territory. Like that was Terrell Pryor's stomping grounds. We played them one game away from the state championship. Coach wasn't on that team. He had transferred schools. He was doing the basketball state finals at that time. He wasn't on that football team. He does think he was for sure good enough to have at least helped that team not quite get as humiliated quite as bad as they did. But another story for another day. But anyways, probably not even for another day. Who cares? High school football's lame. But so what we went to get smoke, right? And this place was like locked down, dude. Like this was definitely a straight up trap house. Like coach just sketched out the second we got in there. There's like guns everywhere and stuff like that. And coach doesn't really usually like to get a smoke from someone like that. He just wants to get off like a buddy, right? So it was definitely like some not gangbanger types, but people from the hood, that aren't playing with their shit, right? And as far as like I said, we are just going to get some smoke. Well, dude happened to have a little bit of Lucy, which isn't really Coach's favorite thing, but he doesn't dislike it. He's more about the fungus. But he thinks Lucy, if done in small doses, that sort of stuff in the right environment's relatively harmless, right? So we were all just gonna do it once we got back to my house, settle in, blah blah blah. Well, my one buddy's like a fiend, or back in the day when we hung out, right? He was like a fiend. So he literally pops the shit right on the spot, and like me, Ryan, or yeah, my buddy are just like, "You fucking kidding me, dude?" Like, and so we're like, basically the only thing worse than tripping all the way home would be having to deal with him tripping when we're not. So we just decided to go for it. We're like, all right, fuck it. And we pop it with him, right? And we got to head home. Almost immediately, there's a toll, okay? And it only takes change, like no debit, nothing like that. And we had like no cash, bro. And like it's just like you just toss it in, it's counting up, it's counting up, it's counting up. I think the toll was $3, and we had no joke gotten to 295 somehow. But we knew there's no way there is a single penny left in this car. We have completely tossed it. So the coach literally had to go walk around in the street until he found a nickel and tossed it in there. And we get back home and stuff. And not that I'll do it like too much crazier than that happened, but like I'm telling you, you should have seen the three of us tripping balls at this toll trying to figure out, like, cause your cop could have rolled up any minute. Like, what the fuck they just stopped at a toll for? Our eyes are completely blown. Like when coach trips, like there's no hiding it. Like I can fake it as far as my personality or anything like that, but my eyes get blown, dude. I look like Futurama shit. Like no, or like sometimes it'll just be one pupil too. That's even worse. Like one pupil will be huge, the other's tiny. Like some crazy shit. So anyway, we don't need to talk too much about that. It's only been a few minutes, so it wasn't too big a waste time. But yeah, just saying. Let's get on to focus here. So this was what I really liked about his comment. So, of course, I really do appreciate you mentioning. I put a lot of work into finding these patterns and numbers, and I do. Coach really does, no joke. He works himself sick, like he gets to a stopping point and then he just pushes through, right? Like how I always did with sports. But I'm able to do that because it's like having good teammates, right? Like you can find that extra gear if you're doing something for a cause or a purpose. Like if you guys are just blowing your assignments or like just giving coach a hard time or whatever, he's just going to quit on you. Right? So like you guys, you can't even imagine how important you are. And like, as far as I mentioned, we wouldn't have had the Maple Leafs pick, certainly not the MLS pick. We wouldn't even have the Notre Dame pick. We would have never even had the Ohio State pick. Like, I'm not joking. There's no way coach would have gotten into college ball, right? Probably not Stanford. Who even knows? We can't even possibly, add up how much you and Daniel pretty much are directly responsible for at this point, even if you didn't necessarily come up with the theory. You fed coach the fuel to get to the cheese, right? Coach is a streetwise hood rat. We're always getting to that cheese, baby, right? So basically, yeah. So let's talk about where you're saying it's nice to be able to talk about this without someone pushing gematria. That's one of the reasons Coach started the channel. There are channels that do scripted takes that aren't gematria, but Coach thinks like it's either one extreme or the other, right? Like either they're too into patterns and they start making up their own, or they completely don't believe in that stuff at all and they almost approach it like a normie and like they think like the game's like half real, right? Like coach couldn't find anybody that was the right flavor that he would want to watch, so coach had to make a channel that he would want to. That's how coach rolls. Like if coach listens to his own music, right? It's not stuff he's entirely made, but he'll listen to songs, all sorts of stuff, and be like, this is garbage. He'll change the tuning, he'll change the beat, all that sort of stuff, so he has something to listen to. Like his channel, if nothing else, would be like, well, at least I have something to watch now, right? Like I can go back over my stuff and try to check myself, and of course, hoped that we would get, some decent comments here and there. Coach thought it would be more commenters, but less quality. Less commenters and higher quality is the perfect scenario because it's less of you that I have to focus on, but you're always bringing heat, right? So that's amazing. Coach just wants a few more of you, at the end, about a year from now or something. Let's get these first, right? But eventually, we'd like to add on because, me and our assistant coaches, Trevor and Daniel, we want to kind of retire, right? And let the players do most of the hard lifting, right? We'll just look over some film, tell them what they're doing wrong, right? That's basically where we want to get to eventually. But we're putting in the hard work this year. And, but yeah, so as far as like gematria, coach had never heard the phrase gematria before, maybe a year or two ago. And, he was very confused by it. And he did think like some of the things they said sometimes made some sense, mainly when they talk about like sixes or a 777 or something like that. It's like, okay, I could see that, right? But basically, so many of them use those stupid calculators. and stuff. And coach don't fuck with the calculator at all. If you have to use a calculator to explain to me why something's a good connection, it's not a good fucking connection, right? Period. And like, I don't trust those calculators for nothing. I don't think they're actually telling you anything means. And like, they pick and choose their phrases. Like, it's not even like they'll take a phrase directly out of the headlines and put that exact in. Like, they'll change the words a little bit, right? They'll change like from like tree to fern or whatever they need to do to make it hit the stupid number they're saying is important, right? And it's like they use every number ever. Like, every number is a hit for them, right? It's like, oh yeah, here's another one for me, right? It's like, okay, buddy, right? So coach thinks the story should be able to tell itself like inside of the story. Like, coach loves the deep dives, all that sort of stuff, but for the most part, you can pretty just much look at my teams right here right now and do a little bit of head scratching and figure out like, oh well, yeah, these are definitely connected. So that's why coach likes his script better, um and like his method. Coach said that, of course, like, we're gonna have to make some assumptions, that sort of stuff, but like, not until we get to that point, right? Like, coach had no fucking clue what we were looking for. No clue. Just trusted his gut enough that when we found something weird, we'd know something was up. And it would happen enough times that we'd start seeing a pattern. Well, has it happened yet? Right? So yeah, coach is pumped. This is fucking awesome. You guys are the best. I know coach is a lot to handle, right? There's got to be a lot of times rolling your eyes like, this is cringe. You're like, why is he even dealing with this bullshit or wasting his energy on this? Coach just says it like it is, right? Sometimes he's wrong, sometimes he's right. So, uh, just let you know, appreciate y'all letting coach be himself, not give him a hard time, but also, yeah, just once again, criticism more than welcome from those who have the right to deal criticism, and that's the very few that live in our comment section daily.